I've been trucking for 15 years, and I've seen my fair share of weird shit. Late-night hitchhikers that seem to vanish when you pass them. Fog rolling in too thick and too fast. Truck stops where the locals stare too long and don't blink enough. But nothing prepared me for what happened on I-80 through Nebraska last winter. I picked up a load of steel pipes in Omaha and was headed west to Salt Lake City. Straight shot, nothing complicated. The forecast was clear, roads dry. Just another overnight haul. About 100 miles in past Lincoln, the CB got real quiet. No truckers chatting, no highway patrol updates. Just static. I switched channels, nothing. Figured it was just bad reception and kept rolling. That's when I saw it. A truck up ahead. Same make and model as mine. A Peterbilt 389. All black with chrome trim. That wasn't the weird part. What made my skin crawl was the fact that it had the same company decals, the same DOT number, and even the same license plate as mine. I damn near slammed on the brakes. I checked my mirrors, my GPS, even called my dispatcher to make sure no other trucks were running the same route with the same load. Nothing. I was the only one scheduled. I had two choices. Slow down and let it pull away, or speed up and get a better look. I chose wrong. I pushed the pedal down, my Peterbilt roaring as I gained on the identical truck ahead. My heart pounded. This wasn't some random coincidence. This was my truck. As I closed the gap, I noticed something even worse. It had my damage. Last summer, I'd clipped a guardrail in Wyoming during a storm, scraping the rear fender and denting the side panel near the exhaust. This truck had the exact same dent, the same scratch. Even the damn rust pattern was identical. My hands clenched the wheel so tight I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I pulled alongside it, matching its speed. My headlights flooded the cab. That's when I saw him. The driver looked exactly like me. Same beard, same hat, same jacket. But he wasn't looking at the road, he was staring right at me. I swear to God, his lips moved in sync with mine. I jerked my wheel, nearly veering off the road. The truck beside me did the same, like a twisted reflection in a broken mirror. Then, with a violent lurch, it swerved into the median and disappeared into the darkness. No skid marks, no crash, just gone. I pulled over, gasping for air. My truck hummed, idling steady. My breath fogged up the windshield. My hands shook, and then my CB crackled to life. My voice came through the speaker. "See you at the next stop, buddy." I slammed the radio off and hit the gas, tearing down that highway as fast as my rig would go. But deep down, I knew I wasn't outrunning this. Not even close. I didn't stop for the next 2 hours. My hands were white-knuckled on the wheel, my breath shallow, my gut twisted in a knot so tight it felt like barbed wire was coiled inside me. That thing, that truck, that driver, that voice was impossible. And yet, it happened. I kept the CB off, the radio off, everything off. Just the hum of my Peterbilt and the long, dark stretch of I-80 in front of me. My headlights carved through the emptiness. I just needed to make it to the next truck stop, pull in under the bright lights, splash some cold water on my face, be around people. About 20 miles ahead, I saw the glowing green exit sign for a rest stop. No name, just the standard white icon for fuel, food, and parking. I didn't remember this stop being here, but maybe I just never noticed before. I veered onto the ramp. That's when everything felt wrong. The rest stop looked normal at first. Gas station, a diner, a big lot for rigs. But something about it made my skin crawl. The streetlights were too dim, their yellow glow sickly and weak. The diner was open, but through the fogged-up windows, I didn't see a single person inside. No cars were parked at the pumps. No trucks idling in the lot. Just emptiness. I pulled in anyway, against every instinct screaming at me to turn the hell around. My body was running on fumes, and I needed a break. I killed the engine, but the second I did, the air changed. Everything got muffled, like I was suddenly inside a soundproof box. No wind, no crickets, no distant rumble of another car on the highway. Just silence. Then, a low, gravelly voice came from behind me. "You made good time, buddy." I spun so fast I nearly fell out of my seat. Standing outside my driver's side window was me. Not a reflection. Not a trick of the light. It was me, down to the same grease-stained flannel and the rip in my jeans. Same face, same beard, same dead look in the eyes. But something about his smile was wrong. It stretched too wide, too forced, like his skin wasn't used to making that shape. I fumbled for the ignition, but the truck wouldn't start. My double tilted his head. "Ain't no use fightin' it," he said, tapping the glass with one grimy finger. "You already know how this ends." The lights in the rest stop flickered. The diner went completely dark. And then I heard doors unlocking all around me. I wasn't alone anymore, and I sure as hell wasn't getting out of there in one piece. The sound of locks clicking open, dozens of them, sent a lightning bolt of terror straight through my chest. I snapped my head around, scanning the parking lot. The trucks that weren't there a second ago were suddenly everywhere. Row after row of rigs, all idling, doors hanging open. Their headlights were off, but something inside them moved. I saw figures stepping down from the cabs, shadows shifting in the dim light, and they all looked like me. Some were cleaner, fresher versions of me, like I had just rolled out of a shower and put on a new set of clothes. Others were worn down, like they'd been on the road for years without stopping, faces gaunt, eyes hollow. A few were wrong bodies slightly twisted, necks too long, mouths stretching in ways no human mouth should. All of them walked toward my truck. The one standing outside my window tapped the glass again, that too-wide grin never wavering. "Come on now. You're one of us." I don't know how I did it, but I forced myself to move. My fingers found the ignition, twisting it so hard I thought I'd snap the damn key in half. The truck roared to life. I didn't think, I just reacted. I threw it in reverse, tires screaming against the pavement as I shot backward. The things, the copies of me, didn't flinch. They just kept coming, walking in unison, slow and steady, as if they knew I had nowhere to go. I spun the wheel, tires skidding, and gunned it toward the exit ramp. My headlights passed over the diner's front window for half a second, and inside, sitting at every booth, staring out at me, more of me, all of them smiling. I hit the gas, hard, blowing through the stop sign and back onto the highway. The second my tires hit the asphalt, everything changed. The CB crackled. The wind roared back into my ears. I glanced at the mirrors, the rest stop was gone. Like it had never been there. Just empty road behind me. I kept driving. Didn't stop. Didn't breathe right for a full hour. Then the CB came back to life. A different voice this time. Low, crackling with static. "Next time, buddy. Don't stop." I ripped the CB from its mount and threw it to the floor. And I haven't stopped at an unknown rest stop since. Because whatever that place was, it was waiting for me. I didn't stop until I hit a well-lit truck stop outside Cheyenne, Wyoming. The kind of place with 20 rigs idling in the lot, a diner full of real, breathing people, and a cashier who looked half asleep but very much human. I parked under the brightest floodlight I could find, climbed out on shaky legs, and staggered inside. The coffee tasted like burnt dirt, but I chugged it anyway, trying to force my hands to stop shaking. My reflection in the window was pale, my eyes bloodshot. But at least it was just one of me. I had no answers. What the hell had I seen? Was it some kind of time slip? A ghost highway? Was I dead and didn't know it? I was too damn scared to ask the waitress, but I needed to say something to someone. So I turned to the old-timer sitting a few stools down. A fellow trucker by the look of him. Heavy-set, gray beard, wearing a faded Freightliner cap. The kind of guy who'd been running the roads longer than I'd been alive. "Hey, man." I started, my voice raw. "You ever seen anything weird on I-80? He didn't look at me, just kept stirring his coffee, slow and steady. Then he said, "You stopped, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. "What?" He finally turned, and his eyes, Jesus, they weren't shocked. They weren't confused. They were knowing. "You saw yourself," he said, voice low. "Saw the others. Heard the voice on the CB." He shook his head. "Damn fool, you stopped." I could barely breathe. You know about it?" He exhaled, rubbing his temple. "Son, every trucker that's been out here long enough has heard the stories. The highway phantom, the reflections, the rest stop that wasn't there. He met my eyes, but not many live to talk about it. Because they do what you did, they stop. I swallowed hard. What the hell is it? His fingers drummed against the counter. No one knows for sure. Some say it's the road itself, swallowing drivers who've been out too long. Some say it's something older, hunting for the ones who make the mistake of looking too close. His voice dropped even lower. But everyone agrees on one thing. Once you see it, it sees you. I felt ice crawl down my spine. How do I stop it? I asked, barely above a whisper. The old-timer sighed. You don't. You just keep driving. Never stop at an unmarked station. Never answer the CB if you don't recognize the voice. And if you ever see yourself on the road again. He turned back to his coffee. Don't let it catch up. I sat there, staring at my trembling hands, the cheap fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I wanted to believe he was full of shit. Just a superstitious old trucker messing with a rookie. But I knew better, because as I sat there, the CB on my dash, the one I had ripped out and left on the floor, crackled back to life. And through the static, a voice just like mine whispered, "See you real soon, buddy." I did everything right. I switched up my routes, stuck to busy highways, never took an unknown exit. But the thing about the road, it never forgets. I was hauling a load of lumber through Colorado, heading toward Denver on I-76. Midnight. Roads empty except for the occasional passing headlights. The kind of quiet that makes the hum of the engine feel like the only real sound in the world. That's when I saw it. In my mirror. A truck. My truck. Black Peterbilt 389, chrome trim, identical down to the rust patterns. It was trailing me maybe 100 yards back. No headlights. Just rolling through the dark like a shadow on wheels. My mouth went dry. I checked my speed. 72. A little fast, but not unusual. The truck behind me? 72. It matched me. Exactly. I gripped the wheel, blood draining from my fingers. I eased off the gas. The truck behind me slowed down, too. I sped up. I sped up. I felt sick. I knew what this was. It had found me again. I took a deep breath, forcing my mind to stay sharp. I wasn't going to stop this time. No rest stops. No exits. Just drive. For the next 50 miles, the truck followed. Never getting closer. Never falling behind. Always just out of reach. Then, somewhere past Roggen, something changed. The truck's headlights blinked on. My CB, which I had left off, crackled with static. And through the white noise, a voice spoke. My voice. You can't outrun yourself, buddy. I nearly lost control. My tires veered onto the rumble strip, jolting me back to my senses. I forced my breathing to slow. Think, think. The old trucker's words echoed in my head. Don't let it catch up. So I did the only thing I could. I floored it. My Peterbilt roared, speed climbing past 80, then 85. The engine groaned, but I didn't care. I stole a glance in the mirror. The truck behind me? It was gaining. Not by speeding up, by getting closer without moving. Like the space between us was folding inward, the road bending just to pull it closer. My stomach turned. This wasn't possible. I had to lose it. Up ahead, a curve in the highway. No exits. No turnoffs. Just a long bend leading into another straightaway. But on my right, a dirt road. I had no time to think. I yanked the wheel hard. My tires screeched as I swerved onto the dirt path, my trailer fishtailing behind me. Dust exploded in my wake, my headlights cutting through the swirling cloud. For a few agonizing seconds, I felt my rig tilt, the weight of the trailer threatening to tip me over. Then, with a violent lurch, my tires caught solid ground again. I straightened out, gasping for air. I checked the mirror. The other truck was gone. The highway was empty, just me, and the dust settling behind. I pulled over, chest heaving. My hands shook so bad I couldn't even reach for my water bottle. I sat there, staring at the empty road. I wanted to believe it was over. But then, my CB crackled one last time. Soft, almost playful. Clever move, buddy. I didn't sleep that night. Hell, I don't think I'll ever sleep right again. Because I know now, this thing, whatever it is not done with me. I barely remember pulling into Denver that morning. My hands were numb on the wheel, my mind running circles around what I'd seen, what had followed me. I dropped my load, turned in my paperwork, and drove straight to a truck stop just outside the city. Not to sleep. I wasn't closing my eyes. Just needed coffee. Needed to be around people. The place was half full, mostly long haulers like me. The smell of burnt eggs and diesel clung to the air. I grabbed a counter seat, hands shaking so bad I almost spilled my coffee. And that's when I noticed him. An old man, sitting in the booth across from me. Not just any old man, the trucker from Cheyenne. The one who had warned me. He was stirring his coffee slow, like he'd been waiting for me. I hesitated, then slid into the seat across from him. "You were right," I said, my voice hoarse. He didn't look surprised, just nodded. "It found you again." I swallowed. "What the hell is it?" For the first time, he looked uneasy, like he didn't want to say it out loud. "Some call it a phantom. Some say it's the road itself," he muttered. "But I think it's something else. Something that ain't never been alive, but knows how to wear a man's skin." He tapped his finger against the table. "And once it latches onto you, son, it don't let go." I shuddered. "How do I stop it?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "You don't." My stomach twisted. "But there's a way to shake it," he continued. "A way to make it lose track of you." I gripped the table. "How?" He glanced around, then pulled something from his pocket and slid it across the table. A paper map. "Highways are its hunting ground," he whispered. "It knows them too well. But these," he tapped the map. "Back roads, dirt roads, places no trucker in his right mind would take a rig." He met my eyes. "You gotta take the roads it don't expect." I felt a cold sweat on my neck. "You're telling me to take back roads in a full-sized Peterbilt?" He just nodded. "It won't be easy, but it's your best shot." I hesitated. "And if it finds me anyway?" He exhaled, looking me dead in the eyes. "Then you don't stop." I stared at the map, my pulse hammering in my ears. Taking a loaded semi down unmarked roads was a death sentence. No way stations, no emergency services, just isolation. But the alternative? Letting that thing catch up to me. I folded the map and slid it into my pocket. "Good luck, son," the old trucker muttered, and just as I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist. His grip was ice cold. I looked back at him. For the first time, his face looked off. Something in his expression wasn't human. And then, in a voice too familiar, my own voice, he whispered, "See you soon, buddy." I ripped my arm free and stumbled back, my heart slamming against my ribs. The truck stop around me was normal. The same waitresses, the same truckers, the same TV playing reruns of some old western. But when I looked back at the booth, the old man was gone, and on the table was the map, still folded, right where I left it. I didn't waste time. I grabbed that damn map and got the hell out of that truck stop, my boots hitting the pavement harder than they should have. The air outside was cold, but I was sweating. I climbed into my Peterbilt, locked the doors, and unfolded the map with shaking hands. The old man, or whatever the hell he was, had circled a spot in red ink. A series of back roads running through the Colorado wilderness. No towns, no truck stops, no reason for a rig to ever be there. I should have tossed the map out the window, should have taken the nearest on-ramp and kept rolling west. But I knew better. The highway wasn't safe anymore. I fired up my rig and took the first turnoff onto the back roads. For the first 2 hours, nothing happened. The roads were rough, narrow, trees pressed in on both sides, their branches clawing at the night sky. I kept my brights on, scanning every shadow, every bend, waiting for something, anything, to crawl out of the darkness. But the road stayed empty. And then, around mile marker 53, the fog rolled in. Thick, heavy, too fast. My headlights barely cut through it. My speed dropped to 20. My hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Something moved in the fog. I saw it in the mirror first. A shape, dark, keeping pace with my truck. Then, another, and another. They were walking alongside my rig. I couldn't see their faces, just shadows, pacing me, dozens of them, moving in eerie unison. Then one of them stepped onto the road. Right in front of me, I slammed the brakes, my tires shrieking against the asphalt. The truck lurched, my trailer fishtailing wildly. For a split second, I swore I was going to jackknife. Then, everything went silent. The truck stopped. The engine cut off. The headlights flickered. And standing just a few feet ahead, blocking the road, was me. The copy was perfect. Right down to the grease stains on my jacket, the split lip I got last week from a busted ratchet strap. He didn't move, didn't blink, just smiled. Then, from behind me, the CB crackled to life. "You took a wrong turn, buddy." I didn't look back. I didn't breathe. I just turned the key, praying to whatever God still listened that my truck would start. The engine roared. The headlights flashed. And in that split second, the road was empty. No fog, no figures, no copy of me standing in the road. Like it had never been there. I slammed the gas, tires spitting gravel, and didn't let up for the next 40 miles. But I knew this wasn't over. Because in my mirror, just before the fog vanished, I saw something crawl into my trailer. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. Whatever had crawled into my trailer back in the fog, I wasn't checking. I kept that rig moving, pushing 80 on roads no semi should ever be on. My headlights cut through the endless stretch of cracked asphalt and twisted trees. But in my mirror, the back of my trailer loomed in the darkness. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that it was just the fog playing tricks on me. Then I heard it, a thud, from inside the trailer. My stomach knotted. I checked my locks before I left Denver. I know I did. My doors were latched, my load was secured. Nothing should be in there. Another thud, closer this time. I felt my breath catch, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then scrape, a long, slow, scraping sound against the inside wall of the trailer. Something was in there, and it wanted me to know it. I gritted my teeth, forced my hands to stay steady on the wheel. No stopping. Not out here. Not in the middle of nowhere. But that thing inside, it wasn't gonna make this easy. Bang. The whole trailer lurched. My rig swerved, tires screaming as I fought for control. I barely kept it on the road. Then the CB crackled. Static at first. Then breathing. Slow. Heavy. Right in my ear. And then, in a voice that wasn't quite mine, "Why don't you let me up front, buddy?" My vision blurred. My hands shook on the wheel. I didn't answer, didn't breathe. Then a sharp metallic creak. I glanced at the mirror. The trailer door was unlocking. The latch, the steel handle. It was turning. From the inside, I did the only thing I could. I gritted my teeth, and I slammed the brakes. The tires shrieked. The cab lurched forward, my seatbelt cutting into my chest. The whole truck shuddered, and behind me, something slammed against the trailer doors. Hard. A wet, meaty thud. Then silence. The CB went dead. The road was still. I sat there, panting, hands locked in a death grip around the wheel. I didn't want to check. I didn't even want to turn around. But I had to know. Slowly, heart hammering, I reached for the door handle. I stepped out, boots crunching against the gravel. The cold night air burned my lungs. I walked to the back of the trailer. The locks were still shut. The handle hadn't moved. But smeared across the doors, streaked in something thick and dark, were handprints. Too many to count. Some large, some too small, some with too many fingers. I swallowed the bile in my throat, wiped my hands on my jeans, and climbed back into my truck. I didn't stop again until I hit Salt Lake. And I didn't dare open that trailer. Not until daylight. Not until there were people around. Because whatever was in there, I wasn't letting it out in the dark. By the time I reached Salt Lake, the first slivers of morning light were creeping over the horizon. I pulled into the lot of a busy shipping yard, somewhere with cameras, workers, and daylight. I climbed out of my truck on unsteady legs. My body ached. My head pounded. I didn't care. All I cared about was that trailer. I walked to the back, my boots feeling like lead. The streaks of dark, sticky handprints were still there. The locks were still latched. The metal was ice cold to the touch. For a long moment, I just stood there, hands on the doors, forcing myself to breathe. Then I threw them open. The sunlight flooded in. The cargo, untouched. Every single steel pipe strapped down exactly how I left them. No footprints, no blood, no sign of anything unnatural. Except for one thing. Lying dead center in the empty space between the pipes was my CB radio. The same CB I had ripped out of my dashback in Wyoming. The one I had thrown to the floor of my cab. It was clean, untouched by dust or grime, like it had just been placed there. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at that radio until one of the yard workers called over. "Hey man, you good?" I forced myself to breathe, shoved everything down, nodded. "Yeah," I lied, "just checking the load." I took the rest of the day off, got a motel room, showered twice, but I still felt dirty. Didn't sleep, didn't turn on the TV, just sat on the bed, staring at that folded map on the nightstand. The back roads had helped me shake it, for now. But that old trucker was wrong about one thing. I hadn't escaped, because no matter how far I drove, how many roads I took, it always found me. The highway is old, older than any of us, and it has something living inside it. Something that wears our faces, that mimics our voices, that waits for truckers like me, the ones who drive alone at night, the ones who get too tired, too distracted, the ones who stop. That was my last long-haul trip. I quit the next day, sold my Peterbilt, got a local gig, hauling freight in broad daylight. No night runs, no highways, but I know this isn't over, because sometimes late at night when I'm in bed, I hear a faint crackle of static, like a CB radio clicking on, and a voice, my voice, whispering, "See you down the road, buddy."